Well, tomorrow marks 1 month since the U.S. and European forces began airstrikes in Libya. President Obama and leaders from France and Great Britain, well, they all said that the need was dire and that the mission was humanitarian-based and would also be brief. Well, since that time, NATO forces have taken control, but the weapons and the intelligence on the ground in Libya are largely, well, from this country. While some people say that this is a just war, others say the justifications for getting involved were not only not good enough, they were wrong. Well, among those people, Alan Kuperman, a professor of public affairs at the University of Texas at Austin. He's also an author, and among his works, this book, The Limits of Humanitarian Intervention. And Alan, I know that you've written a lot about this, and something that you said was that the U.S. involvement in Libya is not only not preventing murder and suffering, but that it's in fact causing suffering by innocent people and also prolonging the civil war in Libya. Where is your evidence of this?
Well, my evidence is that the claim that was made by the Obama administration that there was going to be a bloodbath, that there was going to be even genocidal violence, that Gaddafi was deliberately, intentionally massacring civilians. My evidence is that there is no evidence of that in the other cities that Gaddafi has captured, either totally or partially. And the latest data comes actually from Human Rights Watch. And what they found is that the victims in Misrata, which is the third biggest city in Libya, only 3% of the wounded are women. And what that tells you is that the violence by Gaddafi's forces is not indiscriminate. It's actually quite targeted. It's targeted at fighters because the fighters are male. If Gaddafi were trying to massacre civilians, there would be thousands killed, not a couple hundred killed in Misrata. And if he were indiscriminately targeting civilians, then about half the victims would be women, not 3%. So my concern is that there was no bloodbath ongoing. There was no bloodbath likely in Benghazi. And instead, the civil war essentially was going to be over a month ago. But then NATO intervened, led by the United States. And what that has done is sort of level the playing field. It's prolonged the civil war. Cities in the center of Libya on the coast have now changed hands 2, 3, 4 times. Every time they change hands, there's shelling from both sides and the civilians that are caught in the middle. So we didn't stop a bloodbath, but we are prolonging and perpetuating the suffering of civilians in Libya, in my opinion.
But Alan, I've got to point out here, I mean, you know, maybe that some of these places that you point to that Gaddafi's forces do actually have a control in, there's been targeted killings of these armed rebels, but the fact is we can't ignore that this is a man who said in a speech on television, you know, that he was going to search every home and find people in their closets. So, you know, unlike, for example, Iraq and this false claim of weapons of mass destruction, here you have a leader who's actually saying, you know, by the way, I am going to come out and drag people out of their homes and kill them. And I know that, you know, this is something that Obama pointed to in his speech in terms of why we got involved in Libya. Let me play a little bit of what President Obama said, and then I'll have you respond.